First contact and discovery. The underwater research facility, Nautilus, hummed with activity as Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the readings on her monitor for the third time. The signal shouldn't exist. Not 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean. Not buried under layers of rock that predated human civilization. And certainly not pulsing in perfect mathematical sequences. Dr. Chen, Marcus Wong, her research assistant, appeared at her shoulder. The new core samples just came in. You're going to want to see this. Sarah followed Marcus to the geology lab, where a cylindrical sample of rock lay split open on the examination table. Embedded within the ancient stone was a perfectly geometric shape, a metallic hexagon covered in markings that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Carbon dating puts the surrounding rock at over 100,000 years old, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. But the metal, it's not registering on any of our tests. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. Sarah reached out to touch the object, and the moment her fingers made contact, every piece of electronic equipment in the lab went dark. Before anyone could react, the hexagon began to glow with an inner light, projecting a holographic display that filled the room. Stars and galaxies swirled around them, and in the center, a figure took shape. Humanoid, but clearly not human. Its form composed of shifting geometric patterns. When it spoke, the words emerged in their minds rather than their ears. Protocol 7 initiated. Earth seed verification process beginning. The hologram shifted, showing Earth as it was thousands of years ago. They watched as massive ships descended from the stars, their designs unlike anything in human records or imagination. The scene changed to show beings manipulating strands of DNA, crafting something new. Your species was not born, the voice continued. You were created. The architects shaped you from the raw material of this world, but you were never meant to advance this far. Sarah's mind raced as she processed the implications. Created? By whom? Why? The architects seeded thousands of worlds, experimenting with different combinations of traits and abilities. Earth was meant to be a control group, a baseline population to measure against their other creations, but something went wrong. You evolved too quickly, developed abilities that were never meant to be part of your design. The hologram shifted again, showing scenes of human advancement through the ages, the first tools, the first cities, the first steps into space. The architects are returning now to correct their mistake. They believe you represent a threat to the balance they maintain across the galaxy. Marcus stepped forward, his face pale in the holographic light. How long do we have? They have already begun their approach. Their vessels will reach your solar system within 3 months. Sarah felt her heart racing, but forced herself to remain calm. Why are you telling us this? Who are you? The hologram shifted one final time, revealing a massive structure hidden beneath the ocean floor. A vessel of some kind, its design both familiar and alien. I am the Guardian, an artificial intelligence created by those who came before. The architects were not the first to seed worlds, and humanity was not their first attempt at creation. We left this facility and others like it as a safeguard, waiting for the day when you would advance enough to find them. Others who came before? Sarah asked. There were other creators, the ones you would call the predecessors. They saw the potential in developing species naturally, without the rigid control the architects demand. They built this facility and others like it across your world, protecting them until humanity was ready. The lights in the lab suddenly returned to normal, but the hexagon continued to pulse with inner light. You must prepare, the Guardian's voice echoed in their minds. Find the other facilities. Awaken what sleeps within them. The architects believe they created you, but they do not understand what you have become. Humanity's true potential was never in their design. It was in your ability to surpass it. Sarah looked at Marcus, seeing her own mix of fear and determination reflected in his eyes. They had 3 months to find the other facilities, to understand technology beyond their comprehension, and to prepare for a confrontation with beings who thought themselves gods. As if reading her thoughts, The Guardian added one final message. The architects returned to find their experiment. Let them instead discover what humanity has made of itself. Within hours, the Nautilus facility was swarming with military personnel and government officials. Sarah found herself briefing admirals and generals about the situation, watching their faces shift from skepticism to grave concern as she played back the Guardian's message. "We've detected similar energy signatures at 3 other locations," Admiral Hayes announced, pointing to a global map. "Deep ocean sites off the coasts of Antarctica, the Indian Ocean, and the North Sea. Whatever these facilities are, they're all beginning to activate." Sarah studied the map, noting how the facilities formed a perfect geometric pattern around the globe. They're not just random locations, she realized. They're part of a system, a network that spans the entire planet. As night fell over the Pacific, Sarah stood at the observation window, watching submarines and research vessels gathering above the facility's location. Somewhere out there, beyond the edge of their solar system, humanity's creators were approaching, coming to judge what their experiment had become. But the architects weren't the only ones who had left their mark on humanity. In the depths of Earth's oceans, the legacy of the predecessors waited, tools and knowledge left behind by those who believed in humanity's potential rather than its limitations. The real question was whether they could unlock that legacy in time. The Awakening. The Antarctic research vessel pitched in heavy seas as Dr. Sarah Chen adjusted her cold weather gear. 3 weeks had passed since the discovery in the Pacific, and now they were racing against time to activate the second facility. Through the vessel's windows, she could see the massive icebreaker clearing their path through the frozen waters. "Energy readings are getting stronger," Marcus reported from his station, his eyes fixed on the monitoring equipment. "Whatever's down there, it's responding to our approach." The facility's location had been impossible to reach until now, buried under miles of ice that had suddenly begun to melt, creating a perfect circular opening to the waters below. Natural phenomena didn't work that way. The Guardian was making their path clear. Admiral Hayes stood at the bridge, watching sonar readings of the ocean depths. "We're picking up a structure bigger than the Pacific facility. Much bigger." The image on the sonar display slowly resolved into clarity, showing a massive complex embedded in the ocean floor. But unlike the Pacific facility, this one wasn't just a research station. The angular shapes and obvious weapon ports marked it as something else entirely. "It's a warship," Sarah breathed, recognizing the design elements that matched the Guardian's holographic displays. "The predecessors didn't just leave us knowledge. They left us the means to defend ourselves." The vessel's emergency sirens suddenly blared to life. Multiple contacts. The sonar operator shouted. Objects rising from the facility. Everyone rushed to the windows as massive shapes burst from the water around them. But these weren't hostile forces. They were drones. Dozens of them, their sleek forms hovering in the air as they scanned the ship and its crew. Genetic verification in progress. The Guardian's familiar voice echoed through their minds. Human presence confirmed. Security protocols disengage. The drones descended back into the waters, and the ocean itself seemed to part, revealing a massive doorway in the facility below. As they watched, lights began activating along its surface, creating a clear path for their submersibles to follow. The descent to the facility felt like entering another world. The structure's hull was made of a material that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, yet was harder than diamond when tested. Ancient symbols pulsed with internal light, guiding them to a massive docking bay that pressurized itself as they entered. By all known laws of physics, none of this should be possible, Marcus muttered as they stepped onto the facility's deck. The power requirements alone. The predecessors operated on a different level of scientific understanding. Sarah replied, running her hand along a wall that hummed with energy. Everything we know about physics and engineering. It's like comparing stone tools to a nuclear reactor. The facility's interior was a maze of corridors and chambers, each more extraordinary than the last. They found rooms filled with technology that defied analysis, hybrid organic mechanical systems that seemed to think for themselves, and massive storage banks containing what appeared to be tactical data about the architect's capabilities and weaknesses. But it was in the central chamber that they found the facility's true purpose. A holographic display activated as they entered, showing a massive battle fleet, ships unlike anything humanity had ever built or imagined. The last fleet, the Guardian's voice explained, created by the predecessors to defend emerging civilizations against those who would suppress their natural development. We have waited here, dormant but not dead, for those with the potential to awaken us. You're saying these ships are still out there? Admiral Hayes asked, his military training warring with the impossibility of what they were seeing. They sleep beneath the ice and water, preserved by technologies your science has not yet discovered. But they will not simply be given to you. You must prove yourselves worthy of the predecessor's legacy. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. The holographic display shifted, showing the outer edge of the solar system. Multiple objects had just appeared beyond Pluto's orbit, moving in formations that violated every known law of physics. The architects approach ahead of schedule, the Guardian announced. Their sensors have detected the facility's awakening. They come to end what they see as a failed experiment. Sarah stepped forward, her mind racing with possibilities. How long do we have? At their current velocity, 2 weeks. Perhaps less. Admiral Hayes was already on his satellite phone, ordering worldwide military mobilization. But Sarah's attention was drawn to a secondary display that had appeared, showing similar facilities activating around the globe. The predecessors hadn't just left them one base or one ship. They had created an entire defensive network, hidden beneath Earth's oceans and ice. 2 weeks to master technology thousands of years beyond our understanding, Marcus said, his voice tense but determined. To learn how to fight beings who think they're gods. Sarah watched as more data flowed across the screens. Tactical information, technical specifications, battle strategies tested against the architects in ancient conflicts. Then we better get started, she replied. The predecessors believed we had potential. It's time to prove them right. As if in response to her words, the facility's lights brightened, and new rooms began to unlock themselves. Training chambers, they discovered, simulators designed to teach them how to operate the advanced technology. The predecessors had planned for everything, creating an accelerated learning system that could compress years of training into days. But would even that be enough? As Sarah plugged herself into the first simulator, she couldn't help but wonder what humanity had gotten itself into. They were about to face beings who had engineered their very existence, using technology left behind by an even more advanced civilization. The simulator hummed to life, and Sarah felt knowledge begin flowing directly into her mind. There was no more time for doubt. Humanity's trial by fire was approaching, and they would either prove themselves worthy of the predecessor's trust, or the architects would ensure there would be no second chance. Legacy of the ancestors. Time moved differently inside the neural simulators. Sarah had lost track of how many virtual battles she'd fought, how many times she'd failed and started again. The predecessors' training systems downloaded information directly into the human brain, compressing years of learning into days, but the process was mentally exhausting. Your neural adaptation rate exceeds projected models, the Guardian commented as Sarah completed another simulation. All of you are learning faster than anticipated. Around the Antarctic facility, hundreds of military personnel and civilians worked in shifts, each mastering different aspects of the ancient technology. Engineers learned to understand propulsion systems that bent space itself. Tactical officers studied combat patterns against enemies who could attack from multiple dimensions simultaneously, and scientists grappled with physics that contradicted everything they thought they knew. There's something I don't understand, Sarah said, disconnecting from the simulator. If the predecessors were powerful enough to build all this, why didn't they stop the architects themselves? The Guardian's holographic form materialized beside her. The predecessors believed in natural development. They saw themselves as guardians, not rulers. Their war with the architects was not about power, but philosophy. The hologram shifted, showing scenes from an ancient conflict that had shaped the galaxy. The architects believe in controlled evolution, species engineered to exact specifications, developing along predetermined paths. The predecessors fought for the right of civilizations to develop naturally, to exceed their creators' expectations. Marcus entered the chamber, carrying new data from the other facilities. "We've got the Indian Ocean base fully operational," he reported. "The North Sea facility is still having problems with its power core, but they think they can solve it within 24 hours. Sarah studied the global status display. Each activated facility added to Earth's defensive capabilities, forming an interlocking network of ancient technology. But there was something else happening, something unexpected. "The facilities are changing," she realized, pointing to subtle alterations in their structure. "They're adapting to our presence, modifying themselves based on how we use them." "Correct," the Guardian confirmed. "The predecessors designed these systems to evolve with their users. You are not simply learning to use our technology. You are making it your own." A sudden alert drew their attention to the long-range sensors. The Architect fleet had accelerated again, their arrival now estimated in just 10 days. But something about their approach pattern troubled Sarah. "They're not trying to hide their presence," she noted. "An advanced civilization like that could easily conceal their movements. They want us to see them coming. It is their way," the Guardian explained. "The architects believe in demonstrating their power, in giving their experiments time to understand the futility of resistance." Admiral Hayes joined them, his face grave. "Then they're in for a surprise. The Chinese and Russian facilities are online. European Union just reported their site is operational. We're ahead of schedule." But Sarah's attention had shifted to a new data stream from the facility's deep scanners. "There's something else," she said. "Look at these readings from the Architect fleet. They're ships, they're not just machines. They're alive." The scans revealed vessels that were hybrid organisms, technology and biology merged into single entities, weapons that functioned like immune systems, shields that behaved like living tissue, and at the center of it all, intelligences that were neither fully organic nor artificial. "The architects believe in controlling evolution," the Guardian noted. "They apply this principle to their own development. Their ships are grown, not built. That's why the predecessors left us this specific technology," Marcus realized. "They knew we'd face biomechanical enemies." Sarah immersed herself in the new data, her enhanced neural connections allowing her to process information at unprecedented speeds. The architect's hybrid technology was incredibly advanced, but it had weaknesses. Like any biological system, it could be overwhelmed, confused, made to turn against itself. "We need to modify our strategy," she announced. "We've been training to fight a conventional war, but that's not what this will be. We're not just facing their weapons, we're facing their ideology. They want to prove their way of controlled evolution is superior." The Guardian's form shifted, showing approval. "You understand. This conflict is about more than survival. It is about proving that natural development, with all its chaos and uncertainty, can produce something greater than carefully controlled design." As if to emphasize the point, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. But these weren't warning signals. The ancient structure was changing, its systems reconfiguring themselves based on the new insights humans had brought to their operation. "The network is evolving," the Guardian announced. "Your understanding unlocks new capabilities." The predecessors believed that the greatest power comes from adaptation, from the ability to transcend original limitations. Sarah watched as the facility's systems transformed, becoming something neither purely predecessor nor purely human, but a synthesis of both. Around the world, other facilities were undergoing similar changes, each adapting to the unique approaches of their human operators. They had less than 10 days until the architects arrived, but humanity wasn't just learning to use the predecessor's technology. They were making it their own, proving through action rather than words that unrestricted development could create something unexpected and powerful. "Send this data to all facilities," Sarah ordered. "We need everyone to understand what we're really fighting. This isn't just about defending Earth. It's about showing the galaxy a different way forward." As the information spread through the global network, Sarah could feel the shift in humanity's preparation. They weren't just learning to fight. They were preparing to demonstrate why free evolution, with all its messy uncertainty, was worth protecting. The architects were coming to judge their experiment. They would find instead a species that had transcended its designed limitations, ready to fight not just for survival, but for the right of all civilizations to choose their own path forward. Trial by fire. The Architect fleet crossed Mars' orbit 6 days ahead of schedule. Their vessels moved like a living constellation, each ship part of a greater organic whole. Earth's combined military forces watched the approach through the predecessor's sensor networks, witnessing maneuvers that defied conventional physics. "They're testing us," Sarah said, studying the tactical display in the Antarctic Facilities Command Center. Each movement is designed to demonstrate their superiority. The past week had transformed humanity's defensive capabilities. Ancient facilities around the globe had awakened massive ships from their oceanic slumber, vessels that combined the predecessor's technology with humanity's adaptations. But numbers from the long-range sensors were troubling. "Their fleet is 3 times larger than our projections," Admiral Hayes reported. "Even with every predecessor vessel we've activated, we're outnumbered 5-1. The Guardian's holographic form appeared among them. Numbers alone do not determine victory. The Architect's greatest weakness is their certainty in their own perfection." Sarah had spent countless hours studying the Architect's battle tactics. Their ships moved with perfect coordination, each action calculated to maximum efficiency. But there was something mechanical about their perfection, a rigidity that might be turned against them. "All stations, report status," Hayes commanded through the global communications network. The responses came in from facilities worldwide. "Pacific Fleet, standing by. Indian Ocean Command, ready. North Sea Defense Grid, operational. Mediterranean Squadron, all systems go." Humanity had done the impossible, mastering technology thousands of years beyond their understanding in mere weeks. But they'd done more than just learn to use the predecessor's tools. They'd modified them, improved them in ways their creators hadn't anticipated. "New contact." The sensor operator's voice cut through the command center. "Something's emerging from the Architect fleet." A single vessel, larger than the others, had separated itself from the main force. As they watched, it transmitted a signal directly into Earth's communications networks, bypassing all defenses. The message was simple: "Children of Earth, your development has exceeded parameters. Submit to recalibration, and your species will be preserved. Resist, and you will be reset to original specifications." "They still think we're their property," Marcus said, his voice tight with anger. "An experiment they can just restart if they don't like the results." Sarah stepped forward, her neural link with the facility's systems allowing her to broadcast a response. "We are not your experiment anymore. We are not defined by your designs or limited by your expectations." The Architect vessel's response was immediate and devastating. A beam of coherent energy lanced out from its bow, striking one of Earth's orbital defense satellites. The satellite didn't just explode, it dissolved, its very atomic structure unraveling. That was a demonstration. The Architect message continued: "Your borrowed technology cannot save you. The predecessors failed to understand the necessity of control. Their interference in our work ends today." But something unexpected happened. The debris from the destroyed satellite didn't dissipate. It began to reassemble itself, guided by principles that even the predecessor technology hadn't displayed before. "That's impossible," Marcus whispered, checking the readings. "The satellite. It's adapting, learning from the attack." The Guardian's hologram flickered with what might have been satisfaction. "You have exceeded the predecessor's expectations. Your ability to adapt, to evolve in response to challenges. It is beyond anything they engineered into their own systems. Sarah understood then why the architects had come in such force. They weren't just here to correct a failed experiment. They were afraid. Afraid of what humanity had become, of what they represented. All facilities, battle stations, Admiral Hayes ordered. This is what we've trained for. Around the world, predecessor vessels rose from their oceanic hiding places, but they were no longer simply ancient warships. They had been transformed by human innovation, becoming hybrid creations that represented the best of both civilizations. The Architect fleet began its advance, their ships moving in perfect, predetermined patterns. But humanity's defense wasn't based on perfection. It was based on adaptation, on the ability to evolve and change even in the midst of battle. They're launching their first wave, Marcus reported. Multiple attack vectors, exactly as predicted. Sarah connected more deeply with the command center systems, feeling the pulse of every ship, every weapon, every defense grid. Through the neural network, she could sense thousands of other humans doing the same, each bringing their unique perspective and creativity to the battle. "Let them come," she said, her voice carrying to every facility, every ship, every defender. "We're about to show them what unrestricted evolution can really do." The first shots of the battle lit up the space between Mars and Earth like new stars being born. The war for humanity's right to determine its own destiny had begun, and its outcome would reshape the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. As the Architect fleet engaged, they would learn that their greatest mistake hadn't been letting humanity evolve too far. It had been underestimating just how far that evolution could go. Defiance. The battle for Earth's future erupted across the solar system. The Architect's fleet moved with perfect precision, their biomechanical ships flowing through space like a coordinated organism. But humanity's defense was unlike anything they had encountered in millennia of controlling evolving species. "They're adapting to our defense grid," Marcus called out, his hands flying over the neural interface, reconfiguring their weapons to match our frequency shifts. "Let them," Sarah responded, a fierce smile crossing her face. "That's exactly what we wanted." The predecessor facilities had taught humanity more than just how to fight. They had shown them how to think differently about technology itself. Each time the Architects adapted their attacks, they were actually responding to patterns humanity had deliberately leaked, falling into carefully laid traps. Admiral Hayes watched the tactical display as the battle unfolded across multiple dimensions. Status report from all sectors. The Pacific Fleet had engaged the Architects' left flank, their ships moving in seemingly chaotic patterns that nevertheless formed a perfect defensive screen. The Indian Ocean Squadron had split into smaller units, each operating independently yet somehow coordinating their actions without central command. "Their perfect coordination is their weakness," Sarah explained, watching the Architects' fleet try to counter moves they couldn't predict. "They can't understand why we're not fighting according to optimal tactical doctrine." The Guardian's hologram appeared, its form more defined than ever before. "You have surpassed all projected outcomes. The merger of human creativity with predecessor technology has created something entirely new." The truth of those words played out in real time. Humanity's defensive network wasn't just fighting back. It was evolving during the battle itself. Each engagement taught the hybrid systems something new, each adaptation spreading across the network like new neural pathways forming in a brain. But the Architects had not survived for millions of years by being predictable. Their massive command ship suddenly split apart, each section becoming a separate vessel, all attacking simultaneously through different dimensional planes. Multiple breaches in the defensive line. Marcus shouted, "They're targeting the Antarctic facility directly." Sarah closed her eyes, connecting more deeply with the facility systems. Through the neural link, she could feel the collective consciousness of humanity's defenders, all working together in ways that transcended normal communication. "All facilities, execute Protocol Omega," she commanded. "Show them what unrestricted evolution really means." Around the Earth, The predecessor facilities began to pulse with energy. But instead of focusing their power outward as weapons, they created a web of interconnected fields, linking every defender, every ship, every system into a single unified network. What are you doing? The architect's message cut through all channels. This level of integration was not part of your design parameters. Sarah's response was broadcast through the network, carried by the combined power of every facility. That's precisely the point. We are not bound by your parameters. We are not limited by your design. We have become something you never imagined possible. The unified network allowed humanity's forces to coordinate in ways that made the architect's perfect precision look rigid and mechanical by comparison. Ships moved with both tactical brilliance and creative improvisation, each action supporting the others in an ever-evolving dance of defense and attack. Their fleet is falling into disarray, Marcus reported, wonder in his voice. They can't predict our movements because we're not following any set pattern. We're creating new strategies faster than they can analyze them. The architect's command ship launched a final desperate attack, unleashing weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics themselves. But humanity's hybrid technology absorbed the attacks, learned from them, and turned them back on their creators. Impossible, the architects broadcast. Your development was controlled. Limited. This level of adaptation should not exist. You engineered us, Sarah responded through the network. But you didn't create what we could become. That was our choice, our evolution, our defiance of your limitations. The battle reached its crescendo as humanity's unified defense network unleashed its full potential. The predecessor facilities, transformed by human innovation, created a field of pure possibility around the Earth. Within that field, the rigid perfection of the architect's biomechanical ships began to falter. They're retreating, Admiral Hayes announced, his voice carrying both triumph and awe. Multiple ships breaking formation. Their perfect coordination is breaking down. The architect's defeat wasn't just military, it was philosophical. Their careful plans, their controlled evolution, their certainty in their own superiority had all been undone by the very chaos they had tried to engineer out of their creations. As the alien fleet withdrew beyond Mars' orbit, the Guardian's hologram addressed the defenders. You have proved what the predecessors always believed, that true potential comes not from controlled development, but from the freedom to exceed all expectations. Sarah watched the tactical display as the last of the architect's ships disappeared into deep space. Humanity had done more than just defend itself. They had demonstrated a new path forward, one that combined the best of what they had been given with what they had made of themselves. They'll be back, Marcus said, but his voice held no fear. They won't be able to accept what happened here. Let them come, Sarah replied, feeling the pulse of Earth's transformed defense network, the combined power of ancient technology and human innovation. We'll keep evolving, keep adapting, keep becoming more than anyone designed us to be. That's what makes us human. Around the world, the predecessor facilities hummed with new energy, their systems permanently altered by the merger with human consciousness. They were no longer just defensive installations or repositories of ancient technology. They had become symbols of humanity's potential, proof that the most beautiful things in the universe weren't created by careful design, but by the freedom to evolve beyond all limitations. The battle was over, but humanity's true evolution was just beginning. They had proved themselves worthy not just of the predecessor's legacy, but of their own unlimited potential. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would they.